Welcome to the Life Giving Leader Podcast. Well, hey, everybody. I'm so glad to be back with you. I apologize in advance. It's actually not in advance. It's past. This here podcast is going to release 2 days late. I had been on a pretty awesome trip to Wyoming and was just not able to get the podcast out. So anyway, it's coming out on Thursday this week. We'll be back on regular scheduled podcast release next week. Let's see, that'll be July 7th. Good gracious, it's July already. Excited to be with you. In this episode, my former boss, the pioneer behind growing Catalyst to what it was, and just a longtime friend, Brad Lomenick, is on this interview. And honestly, this might be my favorite yet, simply because it was very real. It was very honest. We were able to talk about everything, including how it feels to be on both sides of a major transition, how he felt handing it to me and how I felt receiving it. And, just trying to, not that there's a whole lot of conversation about this, but Brad and I have stayed friends. There was no drama around it. God called him to go, and he called me to step in. And I'm just grateful that he was honest about where he was and what God was doing in his life and what he needed to do to get healthy. And then I'm just able to talk about what we're seeing in trends. So anyway, that's coming up. And as always, my friends at Retro 8 Films have come behind and supported this podcast from the beginning. And again, if you are not telling your story, someone else is, and it's most likely your competitor. So Retro 8 Films has helped guide me and some of the biggest companies on the planet through creating the most innovative, creative, meaningful video content that endears people to brands. And so don't waste your time or money on other things that doesn't convert or elevate your brand, but use Retro 8 Films to create beautiful films for your brand. Retro8films.com. Go check it out. If you have questions on that, man, just DM me, because I will tell you exactly how they can help you. All right? Send me that DM for those of you. It's a direct message if you're wondering. So, a couple updates for you. Just had a great time in Wyoming, and I know some of you are like, what, you traveled? I did. I was actually in Orlando and Wyoming, and it wasn't bad. I wore a mask on both planes. Wyoming was very spread out, so it wasn't too fearful, and just had a good time with some pastors and some friends, hanging out, catching up, and it was kind of refreshing, got to be honest. Quick update on the golf game. Had a round or two that dropped me up to 3.9, but then I had a good round last week, brought me right back to 3.8, so we're still hovering at the lowest it's been, 3.8. Got a big trip with my buddies. This is our 22nd year of a buddies trip this year, and so I'll keep you posted, because I know you're dying to know how the old handicap is. And honestly, I laugh, but my oldest son, Nate, just got too big for the last junior set that we just had him, which we bought 7 months ago. So he's officially playing with my last set of clubs, and he's playing with like full-on clubs. So it's kind of a surreal moment, and I can see the day in the next year or two where he might be out driving me, but I'm going to fight really hard to avoid that. So anyway, I can't believe it's July. Oh my goodness, so many good things. Working on something with a friend of mine that I cannot wait to tell you more about. And honestly, we might just do a whole episode on this coming up soon. And because I think some of you listening could very well benefit from the thing that we're creating and building together. So stand by for that. That's news coming, breaking news coming. And then last but not least, well, there's two things. If you're liking the podcast, share it. Make sure you rate it. Let people know that you're into it. The Life Giving Leader Podcast. Next week, ready for this? Hope Heals, Jay and Catherine Wolf, longtime friends, some of my favorite people on the planet. We go to church together. Jay's been in a men's group with me. We just love the Wolf family, and their book, Hope Heals, their organization, Hope Heals, has been absolutely incredible. And that episode's coming up next week. But before we get there, we got to stay here with the one and only Brad Lomenick. Again, Oklahoma Sooner, longtime front man for the band called Catalyst, and I just love him. I love him to death. I'm so thankful for his friendship. I'm thankful that he gave me a shot, And I'm thankful that we continue to walk in life together and continue to try to serve leaders together. So hope you enjoy this episode with me and my good friend, Brad Lomenick. Well, welcome to the Life Giving Leader Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Reagan, and today, long-term friend, boss at one point, mentor, coach, parent. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just keeping making up things. The very influential, good-looking, available, I think, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Available. Right. Yeah. And
sure.
And one of the best leaders I know, Brad Lomenick, on the line today. How we doing, Brad?
Well, I'm doing fabulous. I mean, I want to know, like, is this episode 1? Is this episode 7? Where do I fit on the pecking order?
So, I don't know yet. I've been working on that flow a little bit because, I'm going to have about 12 in the can to launch with. And I just haven't completely landed exactly which episode this will be yet. So,
well, you're going to want me out there early because I'm going to bring in lots of listeners, Tyler.
I believe that
7 or 8 people.
7 or 8 people are still wondering if we're friends or not. And
exactly. Yeah. They're going to tune in for the drama.
Yeah. Because there's going to be lots on this call, but, man, this is really fun for me, Brad, and I'm grateful for the time. I think what's been fun is our journeys have kind of coincided just within different time frames over the years, and more than grateful that you've given me an opportunity at Catalyst years ago to be a part. So, you've done a little bit of everything, Brad. So for those listeners that might not know you quite yet, now again, we know 7 or 8 do, but the ones that don't, give us a little background on who Brad Lomenick is.
Well, I mean, the first thing is growing up in Oklahoma, Boomer Sooner, by the way, and Oklahoma graduate, University of Oklahoma graduate, back in the mid '90s when football at Oklahoma was awful. So I had to go through the down years in order to get the glory days. So I was a history major, then thought I was going to go to law school, ended up on a guest ranch out in the middle of Colorado, which you've been to, and we were just at recently.
Yeah.
Yes, place called Lost Valley, and spent 4 or 5 years there just being a cowboy. And I would say sort of discovered what I felt like God was leading me towards, and ended up connecting with a guy named Steve Graves and Tom Addington, and jumped in with them in management consulting, which I knew nothing about. I mean, clueless. Totally clueless. I had just spent the last 4 years riding horses and scooping poop, so that was, well, I guess that was good sort of experience to have going into consulting. And one of our first clients that I got to work on was John Maxwell's organization. And this was the late '90s, and just connected in with some of the team there, and got to know Kevin Small and Gabe Lyons and a bunch of the folks who were around at that time, and actually helped write the business plan for Catalyst in 2000, early 2000 or late 99, I can't remember.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those events, that was being put on by Enjoy. But I was helping with several of those different events in terms of thinking strategy, and in the classic case of, the consultant becomes an employee. I ended up joining in 2002 or so. And then the next, 12 or 13 years was really, I would say, doubling down on the Catalyst side, and through lots of different teams and different people, I got to lead it for several years. And 2013, took a sabbatical, which some people, would be aware of. And I write about that quite a bit in H3 Leadership. But I'd hired you a couple of years before that to jump in and be part of the team and help bring some health to the organization, which we can talk about, because I was, not necessarily a life-giving leader at that point. I was demanding. I was the demanding giving leader. How about that?
That's
right?
the sequel.
Yeah, that's the sequel. So all that process happened, and I just felt like it was time to step out after taking that break, and you stepped in. And so the last 5 years for me last 5 or 6 years, I've been doing a lot of different things, consulting, advising different organizations, trying to still have I would say have my foot in the event world,
Yep.
but also a foot in more of the strategy and being able to help several organizations at once compared to working for one organization.
Yeah.
And, still trying to write here and there, but yeah, it's fun. It's a fun season to get to sort of decide what you get to work on each day.
Yep. Well, it was a fun season before Corona, right?
Well, that's true. I mean, here's the deal. As we record, we are April 24th. I mean,
Yep.
I had the virus back mid March after several of us were gathered. You were
Yep.
there as well at Lost Valley in Colorado. The week the NBA shut down. I mean, that just
Yep.
gives reference. And I think, I don't know, 8 or 9 of us have tested positive out of that group of probably 60 of us. And then who knows? I mean, there might have been another 10 or 15
Sure.
that had it and didn't get tested.
Right. Yeah, it was crazy, man. It was a crazy season. And so, Brad, I want to back up just for a minute. And, the next book that I'm releasing next year is called Leading Things You Didn't Start. And a lot of it's from our transition, from me stepping into that space. I want to ask you, one, I know you stepped in, but it was pretty early on Catalyst. I think most people would see you as the guy that kind of really grew it, led it, created the Catalyst we know. What was it like for you internally when you handed the keys over? Like, what were some of the emotions or thoughts that were going through your mind, good and bad? Like, doesn't hurt we've talked about all this stuff. So
sure.
But what was in your mind? Because I think one of the biggest things I'm learning is it's not just hard on the person taking over. Oftentimes, I write this in the book that I think, Brad, the 5th Catalyst West I led after I took over was the first time I wasn't constantly thinking they're all wondering how Brad would have done it. Like, after 5 years, man, isn't that crazy?
Yep.
And, it was nothing you've ever said. It's just that internal story we tell ourselves. What were some of the things on the other side as the one handing it over that you were thinking?
Well, I mean, I would say the biggest question or thing that brought the most anxiety was, what will people still want to hang out with me?
Yeah.
Like, will I still get invited to the things that all the cool people get invited to, right? I mean, the White House invitations, and you know how it is. Like, when you're running something that has influence at that scale, everybody's your best friend. Everybody. I mean, they call you back 10 seconds after you text them because they think they're going to get to speak, or they think, and a lot of those people still were with me, but a lot of them went away.
Yeah.
And that was a huge issue. Was, am I gonna lose not just influence, but am I gonna lose some friendships that are, weren't really friendships, they were more acquaintances.
Right.
That was a big part of that season. I would also say that the question of, what do you do next? And am I just going to go from, the Patriots to the Dolphins or the Browns or the Bengals or fill in the blank, right? The JV team. And
right.
I've peaked. I've hit my peak. So everything else on this side of the Catalyst world will be JV. It'll be junior varsity. It'll be second class. I'll always I'll end up just talking about what was compared to what is to come or what is. And, that's a real struggle. And I would say this for anybody who is also, dealing with that season, the thing that helped me the most, man, I'm telling you, Tyler, was, this, getting away and having a few months to step away from it and actually like process in my mind, in my heart and my soul, sort of what that was going to be. And Steve Cockram, who is a mutual friend of ours, in London, walking down the Thames River one day in the fall of 2013, I said, "What are we doing today?" Because, he was part of the sabbatical for me and walking the process. And I said, "What's the schedule today?" Because I'm ready to get back to doing something. He's like, "Well, we're going to kill Callus Brad." Like, wait, no, I don't want to kill that. I like him. He's the cool guy. He said, "No, we're going to have a memorial. We're actually going to have a moment here that we allow that identity incorrectly that has become your identity to basically have its memorial service." And that was so important, even though it sounds kind of cheesy. Like it's so important to just have that sense of, okay, I'm good.
Yep.
And I won't have to spend a bunch of my life now over the next several years still looking for that sense of validation. And just think of the high school quarterback that
Uncle
still
Rico,
shows up.
baby.
He's 23, man. He's like, he's showing up at high school practice and he's wearing the leather jacket. And you're like, bro, you're old. You're a
Right.
creeper. Get out of here. Right.
Right.
And that's what ends up, a lot of us, we just relive the glory days.
Yeah. And you see that. I do think, Brad, with what you touched on early, that identity piece, that fear of it's almost less about the organization you might hand it off. I think we all know that founders probably have a harder time with this than anybody. Like, how am I going to, we rarely see an organization that was founded really transition well, because the founders sitting there are the same thing. It's like, this is what I'm known for. This is who I am. What advice would you give to them as based on what you walk through going, and I love that, take some time and do it. But how would you know it's time? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. A lot of times you don't. I mean, a lot of times I would say it's the input of all those things surrounding you, because given the chance for you to make that decision, many times you won't. So outside forces, external forces, sometimes are the best excuse for you to move on. And again, for me, I would have had a much harder time. There was a lunch that Steve Cochran, again, he was sitting across from me, and he basically said, "Hey, I can see in your eyes, like you need a break, and you're probably done with this season." And here's what I would have probably never said. I would have probably never said that. I would have, I'm the boxer who I will get knocked out, but I won't bow out.
Yeah.
And so as a founder, as somebody who, everything about you want to see this thing grow and progress and be the best it can be. You have to give up sometimes, or many times, I think, the permission for people around you to actually give you the best advice on when it's time to start to think about that transition.
Yeah.
And this is think of the tech company world, like the tech world or startup world, or, anything that you watch a lot of founders that they end up getting removed by the board or put into a place where they're the chief technology officer or they're the chief product officer. And that board is there fiduciary related because they want to see this thing grow and the stock price go up, or, they want to go public.
Right.
Many times though, nonprofits, churches, ministries, we have people on boards and people on our team, but we don't have the people who really truly can do those things. Right. Like they're just rubber stamping a lot of times. So that's another real danger is have you really put people around you that will, when appropriate, they will say to you, "Hey, it's time. Like, we love you, and we want the best for this organization and for you, and it's time." Yep. And then you have to look at them and go, "I trust you. Okay, let's go."
I'm not sure I'll ever forget the moment when I saw you, probably the first time you came to the office and you talked to the team. And I remember you saying one of the first things you said was, "I got my smile back." And I remember in my mind, because I think those of us that had known you and loved you for those last few years had seen that go away a little bit.
Yep.
And I think those of us that knew there's a different Brad under there somewhere. Yeah. Why was that such a critical shift in your leadership journey as a whole?
Oh gosh. Yeah. Darb was covering up. old Darb was covering up the real Brad underneath there. Right.
Yeah.
And there was some pounds that have been put on the real Brad. You couldn't, he was too overweight to see the real Brad.
One of the things I wrote in my notes is that one of the things I'm most proud of is that you took that and you didn't let it sink you. Instead, it became, no pun intended, a catalyst for your life to get healthy.
Exactly.
That's
about
right. That and what made you change even just habits.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, a couple of things that come to mind, and hopefully this relates to people who are listening. When you find, again, the boxer, think of the boxer in the ring. He's not going to look at the ref and go, yeah, I think I'm done.
Right.
I fought a good 3 rounds, so let's just call it. Like,
Right.
I'm good. Like that was a good workout. But so once you feel like that, again, this system or this process has given you permission to step out of the weight of that, whatever is you, many times, again, it's holding you down, or it's so much responsibility and pressure that you just almost get paralyzed, or you go to your default, which many times is your danger zone. Once you are removed of that weight, all of a sudden you get free again. Like, you start to look around and go, man, when's the last time that I actually gave myself permission to exercise, or to take a 90 minutes and walk, or do a run, or ride the bike, or and so the smile back thing for me was because when that weight gets released, a lot of people think, Tyler, we can both talk about this. A lot of people think that we struggle with it once we've decided. No, the struggle is before we decide.
Once you decide, you go,
right?
Woohoo!
Once you decide, it's like you're sipping, Arnold Palmer's out on the golf course having a great time
with a Bojangles chicken biscuit. Me and you both.
There you go. Come on. Now we're talking. We got a rod and reel in our hand, and we're fishing for largemouth. But that's the beauty of leaders who are somewhat type A. They like to build things. Is, man, if it gets released from them, they move on. And so for me, again, I would have not done that, though, again, without permission and people from the outside saying, hey, listen, bro, we love you, and you gotta lean into this, and you gotta actually make this choice. Yeah. Because here's what I don't want. I don't want on my resume, he gave up.
Right.
That's the worst.
But don't you think, Brad, there's a lot of leaders who are afraid to hand it over, and then they just hold on to it till it is the end, and they sink the ship because they're more afraid of the unknown of it,
You got it. Well, and there's 2 scenarios. One is that you sink the ship because you're afraid of the unknown. The other one is that you sink the ship because you got removed, and now you're bitter, and everything about your life now is, I'm going to crush or destroy the thing that I helped build, which is like double jeopardy.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. There's so many founders out there who you're like, what are you doing? You're tearing the thing down that you helped build for the last decade. But it's because they're seeking for somebody to go, oh man, it was so much better when you were here. Oh man, we sure wish you were back. That kind of stuff, man, it's toxic.
It's junk. So
it is.
I think we've talked about this, Brad, but I'd love to have you articulate this again. But when did you get bit by the leadership bug? Where was that moment in your life where you just went, oh my gosh, now I see? It's almost like you were enlightened. I was talking to our friend, mutual friend, Carlos Whitaker, and the way he likes to describe his life is he's a storyteller. Well, his whole life has been storytelling. It's just had different mediums. You and I both are super passionate about next generation, but also just leadership in general. But that had to come from a moment or two that just go, oh my gosh, that's what I've got to spend my days on. When was that for you?
Yeah, I remember elementary, and this sounds corny, but first grade, Mrs. Weaver's class, and in small town Bristow, Oklahoma, with 30 kids, and I felt just this huge enthusiasm towards getting to know everybody in the class. Day 1. Day 2, I wanted to do trade deals in a cafeteria, and nobody told me to do that. Nobody said, Brad, you really need to be a connector. You need to be an influencer. You need to get to know your fellow students. You need to help them get what they, you need to be this connection where if you put 2 of them together, there's going to be more that comes out of that than, and nobody told me that. I just naturally had that wiring in me. And I was always the kid that, ran for the class office and was captain of sports teams. I think the sports world really galvanized it. And I don't know, when that was, what year, but I was, probably more from being a high school football player and you're elected captain of one of the captains, and then at that point you kind of go, okay, this is real. Because it's one thing to be student council president just because nobody else ran.
Right.
It's another thing to be to have the respect of your teammates. But I think in college and then postgraduate, I started reading a lot of leadership books, and I always felt like politics was going to be the outlet for me.
Yeah.
For some reason, it just felt like that was a good angle, going to law school, kind of on that track. But I started reading a lot of leadership books, and even, I remember running across John Maxwell's book when I was working at Lost Valley in 1995 or 4, somewhere in there, and just thought, man, this resonates with me.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't say that it's one point.
It's kind of an
probably
evolution
been
of
multiple
it,
points.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about next generation that has driven you? Because you and I both have always been passionate about that, but you've always loved it. And what are some things you're seeing in the next generation that you believe will be great with them? And what's something that's concerning you with young leaders?
Well, I'll start with the things I love. I mean, never before has a young leader had so much opportunity to influence at such an early age. And I think that's really exciting. So, and if you're one of those leaders who is a bit older, long in the tooth, we might say, your job today more than ever is to give opportunities early, way earlier than you were given, and way earlier than they probably deserve. And they're going to fail, they're going to mess up, but there's an expectation, I think, especially among Gen Z, even more than millennials, that they want to be somewhere on a team where they can contribute immediately, and they're not going to wait their turn. And we think, well, that's not fair. Well, no, it wasn't fair to you, but
right.
It doesn't mean it has to be unfair to them. Now, on the flip side, I would say that's also dangerous, right? I mean, there's the big E word, which we all avoid, entitlement, and you have to be smart about that in terms of how much responsibility you are giving. And the danger is that in their 20s right now, young leaders they're becoming so anxious because they have so many options. It's paralyzing them, because there's the free agent mentality has said you can do anything and you can do anything you want. Well, now if I don't start Facebook by the time I'm 29, then life's over and I'm done, and I might as well just give up. No, like use your 20s to build character and framework and foundation, and get to know people, like get around people you just love being around. You can learn from them. So we have to remove the pressure for young leaders to feel like if they don't accomplish something the next 10 years, that they've failed, because there's now all these scenarios and examples of people who have, but that's not necessarily normal. So it's two sides of the same coin in many ways around that issue.
Yeah, it reminds me, Brad, of the theme we did. I think I was producing and you were still leading, and it was around make. And just that idea that it's not the destination that defines us, it's the process. And that's probably one of the fears that I see is short-circuiting the process because of the opportunity being there. And social media is a huge part of that. You see these people and you call them overnight successes, and yet we all know, anybody behind the scenes knows how many years it's gone into. Occasionally somebody gets that, and all of a sudden they have 2 million followers on, YouTube or whatever. And now they're an influencer, but there's no foundation. They don't even know what to do with that, because they haven't walked through anything. So it's both. And I agree with that completely.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason, that there's sort of this undercurrent that a bunch of us have been tied into, of trying to gather some young leaders in smaller curated settings with one big topic, which is, let's finish the race well, because a lot of young leaders don't know what that looks like. It's never been modeled to them. They love the idea of it. They love the concept. I'm 25, Brad. Yes, please help me get to 75. Man, I love the idea of that, but I'm not even sure what that looks like, because we live in such an age where that sense of 50-year journey, 50-year, slow
Right.
process
Right.
doesn't feel sexy. But man, it is more needed than ever.
Yep.
I think.
Agreed. So this is interesting for two event guys. We were just talking about how COVID-19 is making 2020 just a complete,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
what in the world? And for guys who've been in the event business for most of our careers, let's talk for a second about what's coming next. Like if not that we can predict, we have no idea, but like, what do you think? And maybe there were some things already starting to change in your mind in the event world. I know we've talked about some different versions of what events are feeling like and how we can adjust.
Mm-hmm.
What comes to your mind when you're thinking about what's next for the event world? Because man, come fall this year, it's going to be a
Oh yeah.
completely different landscape. A lot of the big players might not be around, and a lot of new things might pop up. But what are you seeing? What are you thinking about?
Well, I remember, again, thinking back to March, in the middle of March. I don't remember what day it was, but when Facebook and Google both they canceled their developers conference, and it was actually earlier. It might have been in February. I thought, like this is not good.
Right.
And right now, as we sit here again, almost month and a half removed from sort of the beginning of this, Facebook has already announced that they're canceling all events through the summer of 2021.
Holy
Now,
cow.
is that gonna prophetically turn out to be true? I don't know,
Right.
but I know this: like, there's some smart people that work at Facebook,
Right.
and same would be true with some of these other companies and big organizations who have a lot of people thinking about these things. So
Well, and you and I
I don't
both
think
know though
short term.
there's two different versions though, because their main revenue doesn't come from events.
No,
You know what I
it's
mean? So that
exactly right.
there's definitely groups that this has been their revenue stream is events and promotions and stages and things like that. So it's definitely gonna be interesting to see that part of it.
Well, and that's the downside. Is you're right. Facebook and others, they can go. They don't have to do an event.
That's right.
There are some organizations that have to, but I think it's still going to be quite a while before, even if everybody who is in charge, and I'm not even sure who's in charge anymore, whether it's like Dr. Fauci or the governors or some Yahoo that's a local mayor in a town of 500, who knows? But until there's, even once the stay-at-home orders are lifted, I mean, who's going to get on a plane and fly to Seattle to go to a conference in November of 2020? I don't know many people who will.
I might, Brad. Me and you might.
Well, yeah, that's if we're putting it on, because we
That's
have
right.
to, right? So I think it's going to be longer to recover. I think in the short term, though, I read an article the other day, just talking about that the digital sort of new reality of online events, virtual gatherings, is actually going to be something that as soon as some of these big events adopt it, then everybody else will start to.
Right.
And it might be that South by Southwest or, the Davos or the World Economic Forum or any of those kind of very large with big budget, when they start to say, hey, we're not going to cancel, we're still going to do this event, it's just going to be online. I think we're going to see some of those start to really show up fall of 2020, even spring of 2021. So that's where I think it's going. I mean, to answer your question, we saw a lot in the last 45 to 60 days. We saw a lot of events just canceled. Okay, we're not doing it. If that if we're sitting here a year from now, I think that still might happen, but I don't think they'll cancel. I think they'll just say, we're doing it online. And in fact, we just schedule it and we planned it from the beginning to be online, and that's okay. That we all know that content is a commodity. So the big question is then, well, how do you create engagement and community and connections? But we're seeing a lot of churches that all of a sudden it's like the light bulbs went on and they thought, we should do a prayer. We should do an hour prayer time every weekday. at 1:00. Well, that's not going to go away in the future, because all these people who are showing up to that prayer gathering at 1:00 on Zoom, they love it. And they, a year from now, they might be back in their office in their cube. They're still going to love it.
Yep.
So I just think that everything has changed, and that we're going to see more and more of the digital expression be the norm, not the
Yep.
oh, well, I guess we have to choose that because there's no other option.
But I do.
Do you agree with that?
I do, but I also think it's just not human nature to create community long term in a digital platform, in the sense of, I think one of the things we all miss most right now is being able to hug our friends or see people face to face, or be in a room together. So I think that's going to be, and this is what, I'm helping First Orlando. I've been serving with them a little bit, or a lot actually, but one of the things we keep talking about is it's no longer just brick and mortar or just digital.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a hybrid. It has to be both. But there's so many wins in that, that we have. So I don't know. I think it could be really an interesting hybrid. What I do believe is it'll never be the same. like
No, you're right.
We won't go back to what we've always done every time. Now, these things, it's really fascinating. I don't know if this fascinates you or not, but the fact that it's almost 100, they say it's like 100 years in a pandemic, 100 years. Like, that's fascinating to me. But I mean, especially here in America, man, like, we move quick. And so, whenever there's some sort of hope or light, obviously I live in Georgia. We opened up today. Woohoo. But
get the bowling alleys, man. Let's go.
But I think it's, I feel like there's going to be, like, when Disney World opens, there's going to be a good group of people. They're in,
Sure.
they're like, but there's going to be a lot who would have been in, who aren't going to be in for a long time. And so it's going to have to be
take them it's just like when the new iPhone comes out, right?
Right.
The same.
It's that curve.
The early adopters.
Yep.
You got it. It's the innovation curve, or the whatever it's called, the whatever that curve is, and it's going to be true. So I agree, though. I think what you're saying is really true, that people are starving for connection in person.
Yes.
And so as soon as we can do that, I think everybody will show up. But it doesn't mean that we won't wait necessarily until that is true.
Right.
And fully 100% true.
Right.
Until we actually start to create some connections and experiences and events online. Because again, we've seen it with churches. The average person the average church is now seeing their attendance spike considerably. And we could argue about whether that's real attendance or not, but that ship has sailed. I mean, that argument has sailed. And because every teenager I know, I mean, this is a blanket statement, but which part of our culture is most able to navigate a new world of digital? It's those who are younger.
Grew up on
this is normal for them. Yeah, that's normal for them. So now it doesn't mean it should be the default, because they need actually an in-person connection.
Totally.
But they're the ones who now, they actually have more influence in many organizations than people 20 years their boss or senior, because everybody's going, hey, can you help me figure out how to do this Zoom call? Why am I still on mute? Like, well, just ask the 14-year-old.
Can we get some Wi-Fi in Bristow, Oklahoma?
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, how many Zoom calls have you been on in the last
Brad,
month?
It's insane.
It's crazy. And every time there's somebody who has their mute button still on, and everybody goes, you're on mute.
Who knew that 7 years ago, when Tripp and Tyler did, a conference call in real life?
Oh my gosh.
For LeaderCast, that it was going to be so real.
It's prophetic. Yeah. That's right.
All right. Here we go. I got a couple lightning questions for you as we wrap up. You ready for this?
All right, sir. Yep.
Well, and I do want to remind people, I think as we've talked briefly a little bit about your transition and the way you processed it, a lot of that is in your H3 leadership book. And one of the best leadership books around just really dives into what, from Brad's perspective and what Brad's heart is on what leadership could and should look like. And I just want to encourage people to pick that up if you haven't had a chance to. But Here we go. Favorite movie of all time.
There's a tie. Lonesome Dove. I mean, it's crickets, Tyler. Crickets on
I
Lonesome
had no
Dove
idea.
from you. And Hoosiers.
Now, Hoosiers, I'm in. Hoosiers, I'm in.
Okay.
Lonesome Dove, not yet, but I need to go watch it. Honestly, I don't know that
Listen,
I've ever given it a shot.
It's one of the great cast of all time when it comes to Western movies.
Yep.
It's a 4-part series of 2 hours. It's 8 hours.
Oh,
so
gosh.
you better get your popcorn in one of those big barrels if you're gonna sit down. Get you a 64 ounce from QT and a big barrel of popcorn.
Okay, so I like that. I'm going to do that, and because that actually at the end, I got a question for you that'll tie into that. But best leadership kind of principle that's helped you throughout your career.
I would say if you help others, you're gonna ultimately win, and that's the connector in me. So there's lots of phrases and quotes, and Zig Ziglar has a classic quote. If you help other people get what they want, you'll end up ultimately getting what you want. So
right.
That's been a principle that I've lived by. Yep.
That's a good one. And so this third question, I need to give a little context for the listener, is that Lomenick here on the other line, on the horn, is quite the golfer and can hit that ball quite, with some energy, to say the least.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Who is your favorite, or who do you think is the best golfer of all time?
Oh, I knew you. I figured this would come up.
Yeah.
I'm a Nicklaus guy.
Me too.
So,
I still hang there.
Yeah, I can't get away from the fact that Jack was also, not only is he still hold the majors record, but he ended up second in like 20 other majors.
Same. Yep. And
so
he was hitting the drivers for crying
out loud. In the 86. Oh yeah, he was hitting persimmon woods and crushing them, like 290 even back in that day. 1986 when he won the Masters,
Yep.
that was one of the all-time classics. So I'm still, it's a 1-2. It's Jack first, Tiger second. But
yeah, that's how I'd put him too, Brad. It's Jackson, and just the way he carried himself, the class is pretty special. All right, last one. What were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna ask you, what's the course you haven't played that you want to? Like, what's number one on your bucket list?
The old course. Well, Augusta.
Still, right, sir?
Augusta's in a league of its own, right? But
all of us say that.
I haven't been over to St. Andrews in the old course, which you and Josh Turner were supposed to be helping me out with this last year, but COVID happened. So
make it happen. Make it happen. Nobody's playing it right now.
No, it's probably wide open.
Hey, listen, get on a plane.
I'll be by myself.
Nobody's playing St. Andrews. Yeah, just walk out and play.
Man, our course has stayed open this whole time. It's been good. All right, last question. One snack. You get it today. What is it?
I'm going corn nuts.
I knew it. Because as soon as you talked about grabbing your favorite snack for a movie, I was like, Brad would eat corn nuts. I knew it.
Corn nuts. And the original, not the barbecue.
Right. Straight up.
No, I don't want any of that trash. I just want the original corn nuts. You open those up on a plane and people scatter like cockroaches. Man.
That's no good. Well, hey, thanks, Brad. And I just want to say, man, I'm so grateful for the opportunity you gave me years ago to be a part of the team. And I think even more than that, truthfully, is I appreciate you staying my friend throughout this time, and that we've gotten to do some things together even since then. That's really meant a lot. So thanks for being a part.
Yes. Well, thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for continuing the friendship, and more things to come, man.
That's right. Awesome. Thank you, Brad. If you want to keep up with Brad, the simplest way is to go to bradlomenick.com. You can keep up with him and follow him on the socials at Brad Lomenick. And I hope you enjoyed the transparency in that conversation. This newest book, Leading Things You Didn't Start, really talks and has some case studies of leaders who have taken over for someone else. But oftentimes I want to have the conversation with the person who is handing it over. What was hard about that? What was the challenge? What was the leadership frustration or sensitivities around it? And I'm super thankful for Brad being willing to talk about that. And again, his book, H3 Leadership, he is very honest about where he was during that season, what was not healthy in his life during that season, and how that transition helped bring life back to him. And so go check that out, bradlomenick.com, and you can connect and also find his book, H3 Leadership, there. So again, next week, after the 4th of July, Hope Heals, Jay and Catherine Wolf. So tune in for that. Share with your friends. If you missed the episode with Fran Lamatina, go listen to it. It was last week. We are going to use that. That is one of the most important episodes for me in terms of you understanding why leadership coaching matters. So go back, check it out, rate it, and love you guys. Hope you have a great week. Be a life-giving leader to someone this week. We'll talk to you soon.